Hello, I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, and that's a historical humanist congregation. This is Coffee and Wisdom, in which we take a humanist look at things philosophical and especially theological. For the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about Max Weber, who famously talked about the disenchantment of the Western world as science advanced. He said this: the fate of our times is characterized by rationalization and intellectualization, and above all, by the disenchantment of the world. Precisely the ultimate and most sublime values have retreated from public life, either into transcendental realm of mystic life or into the brotherliness of direct and personal human relations. It is not accidental that our greatest art is intimate and not monumental. Now, Weber was talking about the situation in Germany and in Europe in the early 20th century, but this idea has spread around the world as we talk about secularization and secularization theory. As I mentioned on Tuesday, Ernst Troeltsch, who was a professor of Max Weber, was quite taken and upset by this idea of disenchantment. And after one conference in which this was discussed, he famously said, "Gentlemen, everything is tottering." And by that, he meant Christian Europe, the ideas that underpinned the idea of Christianity in the Western world. We can see this even to this day. A recent Atlantic Monthly article says the evangelical church is breaking apart. Christians must reclaim Jesus from his church. Yep, this has been an idea that goes way back as the idea that secularization and science and philosophy and reason are somehow pressing down and making the space for Christianity smaller and smaller, both within society itself, but also in the individual Christian mind. But I would like to point out that that has been happening for a very long time. Take, for example, Nicholas Malebranche. Now, he was born in 1638. That's a while back, died in 1715. He was a French priest and philosopher, Nicholas Malebranche. Now, he was reading Descartes. He was highly aware of the scientific and advances of his time, and he was wanting to defend Christianity and the idea of a Christian God against the onslaught, as he saw it, of reason and science. He had this to say: we see things in this material world wherein our bodies dwell only because our mind, through its attention, lives in another world, only because it contemplates the beauties of the archetypal and intelligible world which reason contains. Now, this idea is very old. We've talked about it a lot on Coffee and Wisdom. It is a Platonic idea that there is this abstract world of perfect forms that is in the mind of some kind of God, and then that there is a material world. What Malebranche, though, is saying here is that reason itself, he's going to try to claim reason for Christianity, that it is reason that ties us to this world of archetypes. And that's the real world that we're dealing with. And that one then is in the mind of God. He defined God this way: God contains within him the perfections of matter while not being material. You see how he's playing that balance, just as he includes the perfections of created minds without being a mind in the way we conceive of minds. His true name is He who is, that is to say, unrestricted being, all being, the infinite and universal being. So you see how Malebranche is dealing with these contradictions and trying to say we can walk within this idea of reason and science and philosophy and still find the mind of God. Now, Malebranche is most famous for creating an idea called occasionalism. Yes, you too can read some scholarly books on occasionalism, such as the one called Occasionalism Causation Among the Cartesians. Again, the idea here is Descartes was really seeing that there is a material being and a spiritual being, and he couldn't find any connection between those two. And that's the problem he set up. The idea that we talk about in that is the spirit in the machine or the ghost in the machine. And that comes from Descartes, the idea that we are automatons, we're robots in some way. And then there is this spiritual that comes into us and automates everything that we do. Malebranche's going to take that a little step further with what he calls occasionalism. Occasionalism, according to Wikipedia definition, is a philosophical doctrine about causation, which says that created substances cannot be efficient causes of events. Instead, all events are taken to be caused directly by God. So this is a very pre-Max Weber idea that we're going to try to get that enchantment back into the world by saying, yes, we have this material reality, but guess what? Every move you make, every moment, every day, all your life, and everybody on the planet, it's all only caused by God. God is actually coming into the history of the world and making every move you make for you. And therefore, the ghost in the machine is actually God. So you see how Malebranche and a lot of Christian theologians and philosophers are really trying to see their way around this new materialism that is occurring. Well, yeah, maybe we live in a disenchanted world, and maybe not. It's a little difficult to really see exactly what that meant. Yes, in Europe, many people are no longer Christian and wouldn't believe in the basic ideas of Christianity. But there are a lot of ways to redefine those things. But here's a way I think that again that we can kind of re-enchant things, and it's a contemporary book by Merlin Sheldrake called Entangled Life: How Fungi Make Our Worlds, Change Our Minds, and Shape Our Futures. So, again, back to that occasionalism. Are we really making our choices? At one time, we might speculate that it was God that was doing that, but let's think about fungi. Sheldrake writes, the loss of a sense of self identity, delusions of self identity, and experience of alien control observed in elder statesmen in the field of microbiome research are all potential systems of mental illness. It made my head spin to think of how many ideas had to be revisited, not least our culturally treasured notions of identity, autonomy, and independence. It is in part this disconcerting feeling that makes the advances in the microbial sciences so exciting. So writes Merlin Sheldrake. So by golly, a ghost in the machine, forget about that. We've even got a more enchanted way of dealing with the world, maybe. Well, Merlin Sheldrake is a biologist and a writer with a background in plant sciences, microbiology, ecology, and the history and philosophy of science. He received a PhD in tropical ecology from Cambridge University for his work on underground fungal networks in tropical forests in Panama, where he was a pre-doctoral research fellow of the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute. Yes, a young scientist who is looking at these old ideas about the enchantment of the world and where do our motions and thoughts and actions come from. He says a growing number of studies have made a link between animal behavior and the trillions of bacteria and fungi that live in their guts, many of which produce chemicals that influence animal nervous systems. The interaction between gut microbes and brains, the microbiome gut brain axis, is far reaching enough to have birthed a new field, neuromicrobiology. End quote. Yes, indeed, you too can look up neuromicrobiology. If you want to re enchant the the world, one way is to start at the other end of the food chain, as it were, and to look suddenly at how fungi may just be that spirit in the machine. Yes, Ernst Troeltsch long ago said, "Gentlemen, everything is tottering." Well, it still is, but we may just be finding new ways to be enchanted. Who knows? It's something else to think about. Thanks a lot for joining me this week. A big thank you for financial support from Anita Martinez, Marcy Lessler, and Rin Nippling. And this is Coffee and Wisdom. You can join us live on Fridays at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you want the Zoom link for that, email me, minister@firstunitarian.org. Thanks so much for joining us this week, and we will see you on Friday.